Number 1, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as the special guest referee. Yeah, like I said, it was a really tough decision, but the part of me as a fan that just loves storytelling, man, I had to go with this one because the storytelling was on point. There was not a lot of fancy things in this. CM Punk, I think, pretty much worked relatively safe, given the injuries that he's coming off of. Drew McIntyre was definitely willing to keep things safe. Like, I don't even think he hit the, they didn't even risk going to the Future Shock DDT, which I actually personally think, at least when Drew's champion, should be called the Present Shock DDT. But that's a whole nother story for another time. But yeah, man, one thing I didn't mention in my review that was really cool, someone pointed out, is that you of course obviously CM Punk came out in the Bret Hart inspired gear, but you could kind of look at Drew McIntyre's jacket was inspired by The Undertaker, and obviously Seth Rollins is the referee, so this was definitely paying tribute to the classic SummerSlam 1997 match of Shawn Michaels being the special guest referee versus The Undertaker and Bret Hart, which is an all-time classic. And man, everything really worked. The story, I don't think Seth Rollins at all distracted from the action. He helped very much add to the story. And I guess some people were ragging on this online because they said this is over a bracelet, but it's what those bracelets mean. To not get too much Dragon Ball talk, I remember in the Funimation dub, there's a cool line where Krillin and Gohan, known as Krillin in the dub, they are trying to get these pearls from under the water, and these fish are willing to fight for it. And I remember Krillin is basically like, oh man, he's like, they're a bunch of dumb fish, what do we want with it? And Gohan's like, yeah, it might not mean anything to us, but it means something for them and they're willing to fight for it, so hey, we might as well just go about our business. So I say this to say that basically that's the whole idea here for people who are ragging on this match because of it. Yeah, this little bracelet might not mean nothing to you, but obviously if someone made it for CM Punk to just show their appreciation to him because they know how much AJ Lee, his wife, and his dog Larry means to him, yeah, that means everything. So I thought it worked good, and they played it off really well in the story, from when it was on the bracelet to when it was on what's not his bracelet, but it was on Drew McIntyre's hand, when it was on Drew McIntyre's wrist, and CM Punk could have made him tap out, but nah, he had to go for the bracelet and cost himself that. I love the part where CM Punk basically he also had Drew beaten again with the GTS, but then he noticed, Seth Rollins is wearing the bracelet, so he has to go after that. Like, man, those were just fantastic story details. CM Punk just couldn't let his emotions just couldn't keep his emotions in check. He had to let it get the better of him, and you see that he ends up taking out Seth Rollins with that GTS. And I didn't get to mention, as you see I'm using right there as the graphic, Drew McIntyre hitting CM Punk with the low blow behind Seth Rollins' back and then hitting him out with the Claymore. And I just loved once again the finish of how Seth was woozy coming to. He's like, one, he's like two, and just like Shawn Michaels in 1997, he doesn't want to do it, but Drew's like, do it, and he reluctly goes 3. Ring the bell, it's over. Drew McIntyre wins, and how he picked up the bracelet and walked out. Man, fantastic. But as Seth Rollins said, it played so much into the story because he told CM Punk, your actions have consequences. And man, that was the story of this entire thing, how CM Punk's actions constantly had consequences. The consequences of CM Punk's actions, from not taking the win when he had Drew put away multiple times, but he had to let his emotions get it, and he paid the consequences for it. The actions of assuming Seth Rollins did not mean well, which, like I said, he should have probably just put it in his pocket or handed it over to the ring announcer, but to wear it and you've got issues with this guy that's unhinged, Seth in the story should have definitely probably known better. But being said, the whole thing is, I love how it's CM Punk's actions to take out Seth Rollins had consequences, allowing Drew to get the victory, and Seth Rollins basically basically, you know, doing it. He realized he had to count this guy out because, man, wow, just so much fantastic storytelling. It's like Triple H said during the post conference, this was a storytelling masterpiece. And I think when it comes to pro wrestling, as I've mentioned so many times, when it comes to pro wrestling, is that you're going to have certain things. Basically, you have those characters and you have those stories that are so culminating, and it builds into a match like this. It's fantastic. I'm definitely looking forward. And some people I heard were disappointed that this match didn't end up being an all-out bloody brawl. Give it time. Let the story build. It was a great first match because they had to reflect in the rules of what Seth Rollins was and wasn't going to allow. And this can all culminate, like I said, in Hell in a Cell in October at Bad Blood for CM Punk to get the big win back, because you got to think about the rest of the fall. I thought this match was fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. Obviously, I had to put it at number one. It was such a storytelling masterpiece, and I love it. Absolutely love it. So let's go to the chat here and see what's being said here. Seth Rollins have a CM Punk bracelet, and CM Punk do the GTS to Seth Rollins. Yeah, fantastic parts of the match. This match had some really great parts to it. Punk finally coming back and finally having his first WWE singles match after many years. Drew, who has been wanting nothing but revenge on Punk. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the story. Fantastic storytelling. I agree with you so much. Yeah, the story, absolutely fantastic. I love the irony of the ending. CM Punk, in the end, lost the way Drew did because his anger on Drew, revenge consumed him. Seth did great work feeding on both of the reactions. Yeah, it's what carried this whole match. The match was just, it's amazing. And I mentioned too in my review that when they were doing just a lot of basic stuff, the fans started chanting, "This is awesome. This is awesome." And that is the power of storytelling, the power of characters. When you are that over in wrestling, you don't need to do a lot of fancy stuff. Nothing against the people in wrestling who does the fancy stuff, because I think there's room for all different type of varieties in pro wrestling. But there is something to be said of when you can keep it simple and get over. This story was so well built that they didn't have to do much, and it really worked with the strengths and weaknesses that they can do in terms of making sure they didn't risk anything too critical in this match for like injury or anything like that. That was a sad ending. Yeah, sad ending indeed for CM Punk, because, man, wow, yeah, it was heartbreaking for CM Punk story-wise, but I think it was definitely best. You want to give Drew the big win. He's a happy man, right? So he can gloat about that, and CM Punk now, has to fight his way back up, and allows us, the fans, get a lot more behind him and wanting to see him get that win. And like I said, I can't blame WWE in my review. I think they wanted to play it safe as well, because in the event CM Punk did get injured again, at least they've got a worked-in story with Drew McIntyre. The difference here, thankfully, CM Punk didn't get injured, and I hope that those freak accidents we can now put behind him. That means that moving forward now, we can have Drew McIntyre and CM Punk moving forward, as Drew now just brags about how he beat CM Punk, and there's no reason for a rematch. So, yeah, I think it's definitely going good there.